Kenji is the second of two brawlers dashing and slashing his way into the next Brawl Stars update, and today I'm going to line him up 1v1 against every other brawler in Brawl Stars to find out if his sushi blade can cut through the competition. Now, Kenji is a sushi chef and the first member of a new trio. Now, we don't know what environment he will be part of yet, but what we do know is that he is a legendary assassin, and as such, he is going to be a tough one to unlock, but you will have the option of switching to him when he releases in late September, or picking him up a week earlier with an early access purchase. And if you do decide to pick him up early or get the Brawl Pass, I would greatly appreciate your support in using code LEX. It really does help support this channel. Kenji has two different attacks that alternate back and forth. His first attack is a straightforward dash, sort of like Mortis, but in a shorter range and deals a modest 1000 damage. After he does that, his second attack will switch to a large sweeping slash of his sword, which deals double that damage at 2000. He will continue to alternate between these two attacks, unless you use his first gadget called Dashi Dashi. When this gadget is activated, it will cause his next three attacks to be dashes, which is great for getting around the field fast or dribbling in Brawl Ball, but not so great for damage. He has a decent amount of health at 7,600 hit points, but his survivability is actually much better than that number suggests, as every time he lands attack, he will heal himself for 40% of the damage that he inflicts, and this also applies to his super. But he has even more abilities to stay alive than that, as his second star power called Najiri Nemesis will give him a 90% damage reduction shield for the next attack he takes, but he only gets that shield if he doesn't take any damage for 5 seconds. Combine that with his second gadget called Hosamaki Healing, which I really hope I'm getting these names right, and it gets kind of crazy because when activated, this gadget will heal him for 75% of the damage he has taken in the last 3 seconds. And if you look close at his health bar, you see a little bar underneath that, and that shows you how much healing that you'll get at any time if you use the gadget, which is very useful. But what if you want to disappear altogether? Well, he has a super for that. Sort of. With his super called Slashimi, he throws the fish on his back into the air and goes invisible. And right before that fish hits the ground, he slashes it in a massive X pattern and then reappears where he threw the super from. Now, you can boost the range of that attack pattern by using his first star power called Study the Blade. Now, this is a very dangerous super, although sometimes it can be hard to land because of the delay in using it. Now, the last thing to note before we head into the battles is that Kenji has a very fast reload speed, and while his damage isn't super impressive, he can swing that blade really fast, but will it be fast enough to take out the other assassins? Now, you'll notice that Kenji has a shield when he starts every match, and that's thanks to his second star power. This is something you spawn with, and it really helps him out in these tests, as a 90% damage reduction, even if it is only for one shot, is plenty enough to take out Stu. And when he and Mortis meet up, the difference in reload speed is immense, and Kenji dominates that fight. However, the brawlers who fire off a lot of little shots, like Cord, the shield doesn't help too much, and even Kenji's healing can't make up the difference. And if we're talking about self-healing, well then Edgar does that way better and absolutely destroys Kenji. Now, bigger single-shot assassins like Fang struggle with his shield and end up losing. And then Crow, feeling good about his win over Mo, well, he gets humbled today. Now, Miko has a hard time landing all of his shots with Kenji dashing, and his reload speed doesn't compare as he loses. Now, he does, however, have enough to take out Leon, and pretty decisively. Now, there are some interesting observations with the assassins here. First off, Kenji does not pump out a lot of damage with each shot. He's not the type of brawler who can just show up and instantly burst you down. He's more of a can't seem to get rid of him type of assassin. With all of his tools, he is tough to beat one-on-one, and as with most scenarios dealing with assassins, whoever gets the drop on the other one is going to have the advantage. However, Kenji's super can be a surprise, like a well-timed super when Crow jumps in, and it's bird sushi for dinner. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's an actual kind of sushi, but you know, whatever. Now, if there's one class of brawlers that the assassins love to pick on, it's the throwers, and today it's no different. I mean, listen, if you expected any thrower to win against an assassin that can dash, reload really fast, heal himself when he hits you, and has over 7,000 hit points, this must be like your first time seeing Brawl Stars, because we knew it wasn't going to happen. But I mean, listen, it's not all bad news for the throwers. Kenji has 0 wall breaking abilities. Kenji also has no way to get over that wall. That being said, he can dash and he moves very fast, so while you may be able to hold out for a little while until you hopefully get some backup, it's really only a matter of time before he gets to you. And on top of that, if you think that you're totally safe behind the wall, remember that his super goes over the wall, and if he catches you with it and you take 1 or 2 slices, you're either dead or you're on the verge of death. So treat him pretty much just like Mortis and cower in fear. Now we go from one extreme to the next. I mean, Kenji had fun picking on the throwers, but now it's the tank's turn to become the bullies. Even with his big shield, Bull destroys him, and Daryl beats him faster than you can say Krabby Patty. SpongeBob El Primo eventually wears him down, although it is a good fight. And Jackie, even with Counter Crush, doesn't win by much thanks to Kenji's self-heals. And just as Frank pounds Kenji into the ground and it was looking real bad, Kenji turns a corner and narrowly defeats Rosa. Then he proves that swords are better than bats when he faces BB. Then with his shield, he soaks Hank's big shot and ends the fight losing almost 0 health. And he's able to take out Buster in a close fight, and just when he thought he was in the clear, Meg just narrowly defeats him. Now, I'll be real, I thought that Kenji was going to do way worse than this against the tanks. He actually won a lot of the fights and came close in all of the ones he lost in. Bottom line is that he'll be able to beat half of these tanks in a game, especially if he gets the drop on them. With his gadget to be able to heal himself, a super to avoid damage and dish some out, and a big shield to soak that first hit, Kenji looks pretty strong here. Now sure, tanks aren't going to be his first choice to go after, but it is good to know that in the right situations, you can absolutely walk away with a win. Now we have a wide variety of brawlers in the controller class. A lot of these brawlers shoot single shot projectiles, and as such, Kenji all but renders their first shot useless with his damage reduction shield. Also, many of these brawlers don't deal a ton of damage, and with his fast reload and his self-healing, he's able to heal through most of their damage. That being said, some brawlers like Griff just stomp Kenji. It's like not even a close fight. And other brawlers like Otis do the same thing with his multiple high damaging projectiles. But other brawlers like Lou get the dub thanks to getting his brain freeze to activate, and Amber also takes home a win as her shots are numerous and non-stop, and Kenji just can't keep up. However, the rest of the brawlers here just don't pack enough punch to be able to beat this chef. Some of them get beat by a little, however, most of them get beat by a lot. But really, these brawlers, or most any brawler, don't thrive on being up close and personal with assassins, so can you really blame them? Now in the game, this is all going to come down to the situation. If Kenji can get to you before you can either whittle his health down or get some health, well, it's going to be a rough time, but some controllers will have no problem dispatching Kenji. But for the most part, this is not a favorable matchup for these brawlers, and it would be best to steer clear lest you get sliced up. So by now, you're probably thinking that Kenji is really OP, and I don't blame you, but the damage dealers have something to say about that. Now, he does lose to Shelly, but he only lost thanks to Shelly's band-aid, and that itself is impressive, but the damage dealers have some brawlers who are about to expose Kenji's weakness. Kenji has been propped up by that massive shield so far, but brawlers like Colt, who fire multiple smaller projectiles, don't suffer to it very much. And he isn't the only one, because 8-Bit gives him the same treatment and waddles away with a win. Now Pearl at full heat is a beast and she wins easily, and Lola, who is also a great tank counter, does the same thing to Kenji. And this is his big weakness in this test, but other multi-shot brawlers like Rico, well, they don't have the health to back up that power, while many of the other brawlers here are not multi-shot brawlers, like Nita. She has a bunch of health, but Kenji slices his way through it. Carl's shots are just too slow to keep up with Kenji's swordplay, and Colette, once again, can't finish the job. Tara just barely pulls out a victory, however, Kenji, he insults Eve by killing her hatchling right in front of her eyes before finishing her off as well. Or it was an auto-aim, but whatever. Now this one, however, in a game, is going to be a tough one for Kenji. I mean, sure, there are some brawlers that he's going to get the upper hand on pretty easily, but for the most part, he's going to need to approach this situation carefully. These brawlers are no pushovers, and especially if they have supers on hand, they will be able to dominate. Take Nita, for example. If she has Bruce ready to go, you're probably not going to want to get near her. You're going to either have to run away from Bruce or take quite a bit of time fighting him and make yourself vulnerable to other brawlers and a gadget from Nita herself. So pick and choose your battles carefully here as Kenji. Now in the matchup versus the Marksmen, Kenji has a not-so-secret weapon by this point. It's his star power. Marksmen rely on dealing huge damage with single shots, and that's exactly what Kenji's shield is meant to protect against. Kenji can walk right up to Piper after letting her fire away and still take care of her. Almost all of these marksmen suffer the same fate, seeing their big shots damage reduced by 90%, and there's nothing that they can do about it. I mean, they fought back for sure, and they did do some damage, but the lone bright star here was Nani. She managed to break through his shield and get the win, but on the other end of the spectrum, poor Angelo took forever charging up that shot just to see 4,000 damage turned into 400 damage. And by the end of the fight, Kenji was still at full health. Ouch. Now, if you're an Angelo main and you just watched that and you're not so happy about it, it's understandable, but listen, it's not all bad news for you marksman lovers. In a normal game, you're going to be far at the back, and most likely you're not going to be the first target for Kenji. He's going to have to contend with other brawlers before he even comes close to you. However, if you do find yourself in a 1v1 against him, you're going to have a tough time. Even if you land a shot, he's going to keep working his way up, wait a few seconds, get his shield back, and eventually you're going to be in range, which at that point, it's all but over for you. So yeah, just don't let him get close to you, which is easier said than done. Now our last group of brawlers here are the support brawlers. These brawlers specialize in helping out their team, often by healing them, but Kenji, he can heal too, and these support brawlers' low damage output is not doing them any favors here. Aside from Pam, who is able to win a pretty close fight, no other support brawler wins, not even Doug with his massive health pool as he finally gets worn down by Kenji. Kid gets absolutely demolished, and Gray faces the same fate. I mean, come on. They're support brawlers facing off against a legendary assassin brawler. Yeah, you had to know that this was going to be a bad matchup. However, in a game, you're most likely going to have some teammates helping you out, so hopefully they have your back and you just stay wary of where Kenji is, and you shouldn't have to be in too much fear. So then, you have seen Kenji 1v1 versus every brawler in Brawl Stars. Is he going to be any good? In a word, yes. But in more words, yes, but I'm a little torn. On one hand, he has a very short range and low damage shots. However, he has a really fast reload, tons of movement, great survivability, and perhaps the most important thing, he is incredibly fun to play. I mean, is he going to work in every situation? No. I mean, he's not like a super versatile brawler due to his weaknesses, but that can be said for most brawlers, and that's perfectly fine. There's going to be places where he really shines, like Brawl Ball, or as an extreme counter to throwers, or even an aggro brawler in other modes. What I will say, though, is that I think that there is a very high ceiling on him. I think that playing him at base level is honestly pretty easy. It's like you work your way to get really close to somebody, and once you do, you can pretty much spam auto-aim. Now, that is a quite simplistic view, but I think that really skilled players are going to get the best out of Kenji. If you can get really good with him, you're going to be able to shine, and I think that that's actually a pretty darn nice spot for a legendary brawler to be in. So yeah, Kenji is indeed very good, and he is a ton of fun to play. Enjoy the update.